Hey, everybody, welcome back to another podcast on Restored to More. We are so excited to have you with us. Today, I have the amazing privilege of interviewing this beautiful babe sitting next to me, Charity Munoz, my wife, mother of three amazing children, all thanks to her and Jesus and a little bit of help from me. But yeah, we are so excited to just be doing this. About once a month, we love getting on the podcast and just doing us. And that's what we're doing. We're doing a Q&A session today with some more people who've reached out with some questions. And here's Charity. Thanks for being on, Charity. We're so glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. And I'm so excited because you get to be on the show too.
I know.
So Clint is also joining us on the show today.
Hello, I'm Clinton.
Amazing husband, father, and a hero in my eyes and our kids' eyes, which is crazy to say because, gosh, not even what, 5 years ago, I could call you my hero.
Not even.
So I'm grateful for you not giving up, babe.
Well, thank you for you not giving up as well. So absolutely, we're glad to be here.
Teammates.
Teammates for life.
Yes.
Why don't we dive? Okay, go ahead.
Before we even do Q&A, like I want to give you guys a little inside scoop into our life because I think it's just fun just to get to know us and who you're listening to. So we are now in Idaho. We moved to Idaho,
3 months ago.
3 months ago. So we're loving it. We're excited. And it's been really fun. It's been an adjustment for sure. And we are just having a great time.
Yep. Idaho's going great.
Yep. Started a new church and raising our 3 little boys here and transitioned our ministry to our nonprofit. Yep. And it's just been a fun ride.
Yep. This past few weeks, what have we been up to? We have been updating all the videos and the photos that are going to be on the website. We're kind of rebranding a little bit. We talked about last podcast a few weeks ago, and that's been going really well. We're grateful for all the people that are helping us out. We heard from a lot of you guys that you loved that last podcast, the Q&A session, which was amazing. So we're going to do it again. What else has been going on, Charity? Anything else? Making new friends, new connections. Yes, we didn't start a church. We started attending a new church.
Yeah.
Which is going really well. We're excited about that.
We also have my grandparents here visiting for a little bit. And right now we're actually recording this podcast and our kiddos are all asleep. So we'll see if we can get through this whole thing without them waking up.
Well, why don't we just dive in and talk about what people are listening to us for? And I think it's just important we keep talking about the brand change that we're doing as Restored to More, because Restored to More has gone from this idea of only betrayal, trauma, and sexual addiction to we're broadening the scope to helping people understand what is intimacy really all about. We felt that as we had to rediscover intimacy, because we really didn't know what that meant in a relationship. We didn't know what it meant to be honest and transparent. I personally was definitely suffering from intimate deficiency, and I had no idea what it even meant to be open and real as a person. And so as we've rediscovered all of that, and God's redefined it for us, and he's, definitely restored that part of our relationship. We are talking about that with couples that don't even have our story. So couples that don't even have a story of betrayal or of sexual addiction, or everyone has some kind of level of sexual brokenness, but we're actually coaching couples right now that are going through this and they're wanting to build more intimacy in their life. And it's been amazing to see the reaction to the coaching and just to see them holding hands in a different way and being known. And I think a lot of guys struggle with just being open, being able to communicate what they feel and why they feel that way. I think a lot of us guys believe it's weak to feel things that are strong emotions. And I think we forget that our healthy person is not somebody who doesn't feel strong emotions, but doesn't let those strong emotions control their behaviors and their actions. And I think a lot of men let those emotions control their actions. Maybe it's not always sexual addiction. Maybe it's not always running to pornography or masturbation. Maybe it's running to workaholism. Maybe it's running to codependency. Maybe it's running to achievement and performance. Maybe it's running to video games. Maybe it's running to all these different things. And I think we just know there's a calling on our life, on our marriage, to help more couples identify and understand and experience what marriage was meant to be from the beginning. Two people that are fully known, fully loved, fully intimate with each other, and are embracing one another with their flaws. And it means it's okay to not be okay. It's actually okay to be a mess in some regards as a person, and to have triggers and have things rise up. And then so we're doing a lot of talk about all that, which has been pretty awesome as well. So, and of course, still focusing on our story and letting our story define how we teach, what we teach, why we teach it, all those things.
Well, we're really owning up to our name. Our name is restored to more, and we created it because we just really believe that there's so much more to our relationship. That we both believed when we were both going to our individual groups, like we both looked at each other and were like, I don't want to be attending this group for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I know God didn't call me to continue to show up to a betrayal trauma group. Like, I know he called me to more. Number one, he called to restore me. Number two, I believe he called me to be restored to more. And what that more meant for us was building this, building a nonprofit and giving other couples avenues of hope and restoration in their marriage, regardless of where they're at. And if you're listening to this, I hope that this gives you hope, because what we tell couples all the time is that don't give up. If both of you are in the thick of recovery, we get it. We understand, like, there is so many emotions and it feels like a roller coaster of a journey. And some days you want to leave. And especially when triggers pop up, like I call it, you're on the trigger planet, meaning like there seems like you want out, you can't see clearly, you can't think clearly. There's just like the trigger planet means like, get me out of this relationship. It's never going to get better. And I deserve more. And I just
just like losing hope.
Oh my goodness.
Not necessarily I want out of the relationship even, but just what is going on with our relationship? And why are we lost? And why am I confused? And why are we not connecting? And why do we seem off? And we're always off, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, totally. And so I just, I encourage couples, like, we were there. And if he's in recovery and you're in recovery, to keep going. Like, we know it is so hard. We know emotions are high. But if you guys can learn to work together in this season, if you can learn to work on yourself in this season, you guys are going to come out stronger and better. And then you get to help other people and you get to be that beacon and light of hope for others. I mean, that's why Clinton was talking about earlier is, we are our ministry, our nonprofit is for any couple. And yes, we talk about recovery, and yes, we talk about betrayal and addiction because that's our story. But because we are able to come out stronger, we learned some of the most incredible tools of learning what it looks like to rebuild intimacy because we are willing to do that. Yep. And now we teach other couples how to reconnect and rebuild intimacy and how to have a thriving marriage and relationship because we were willing to do the hard work in recovery.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to add to what I was saying earlier, I think a lot of times we've been to so many different marriage things, marriage talks, marriage workshops, all this stuff. And a lot of it's about like, marriage is work, and, the grass grows where you work it, it doesn't grow on the other side, and everyone thinks the grass is greener, all that kind of stuff. And I think I've always been like, man, like, okay, marriage is going to be a lot of work. Oh my gosh. Like, we can do this, just put on your back and get up the hill. And I think hardly ever though, do we see people talking about the joys of marriage, the joys of working through those seasons that are tough, and the couples holding hands, the couples of enjoying each other and laughing and dancing. And so I know you just showed me the verse of the day a few days ago on the Bible app, and it was Psalm 126. I just wanted to read that because I think we forget about this part of a marriage, of a relationship that's willing to do the work. So the Song of Ascents from 126 goes like this: when the Lord restores the fortunes of Zion, we were like those who dreamed. Our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. The Lord has done great things for us, and we are filled with joy. Restore our fortunes, Lord, like streams in the Negev. Those who sow with tears will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out weeping, carrying seeds to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them.
That's so good and so powerful. I hope you hang on to those words and you really see the imagery, because when he was even reading that, I was just imagining, like, in a relationship, right? If you are both have decided you're going to work on your relationship, well, there is some really ugly deep roots, and you are going to have to uproot them and take them out. And it is hard work, and you're coming to the soil with tears and hurt and frustration and anger, and you're just sowing your tears, but then you're reaping. What did it say?
All these things. I mean, reaping songs of joy. And, and just think about this. Like, when's the last time, you as a couple were filled with laughter? All right, it says our mouths were filled with laughter. I mean, like the kind of laughter where it hurts your tummy, your cheeks are hurting, you're laughing and you're joking and you're just enjoying the other person. Our tongues were filled with songs of joy. And obviously I don't think we break out into song like a Disney movie when we're just in love with the other person, but there's that whistle, the guy that's whistling around the house because he's so happy, and the woman who's like humming to herself as she's going about her tasks for the day, and you get in your car and there's just a spirit about you. For me, I like to do like some kind of free lyrics sometimes. I'm like a poet and I don't even know it. I just start freestyle rapping in my car, and Cheryl catch me, and that's always what I'm doing. I'm in a good mood. Because I'm driving down the road and I'm just like freestyle rapping. I'm talking about my day and I'm praising God. And I'm thankful for my kids, and I want to play songs. I call Alexa, play this song, because that song just gets me in the mood. And I think that that's possible in a relationship. No matter how broken it is, no matter how many things are there that are in the way, it just takes some work. It takes getting out the gardening tools and getting down on your hands and knees and getting dirty. I was just gardening the other day, and it was like, I've never really gardened, right? I lived in Orange County. Our backyard was the size of most people's dining room table. And so we never had to worry about a yard, but now I have this big yard, and I had to go up there to the garden. I had to get all these tools and go to Home Depot and get some stuff. My neighbor let me borrow some tools, and some of those things were these different kinds of weeds that wrap around the plant and choke it out. And they're really deep. And so some of these weeds have roots that go 15 feet deep into the ground, which is just incredible. And so I'd be digging out this weed, and I get to the root and I pull up the root, and I didn't even realize it had one of its like limbs that was wrapping around this other bush, and it was grabbing it so tight that it was killing it. And I think, was it work to get down there and get dirty and dig that root up? Yes, but what happened after that? I took off that weed, and it stopped choking out that plant. And now that plant's getting water and sunlight, and it is thriving. It is flourishing in my garden. There's flowers coming up. The sun's hitting it. It almost looks like that plant is singing songs of joy and is laughing, because something that was ruining it is now taken away. Was it work to get down there and dig it out? Yes, it always is. And for us to learn how to communicate effectively, for as a couple to learn how to be communicative in a way that makes us curious, to love each other the way Jesus sees us and loves us, that's not easy work. It's hard to sit there and not assume, to sit there and not assume they're lying, to not think, oh my gosh, well, how's this going to turn out? Is it going to be the same thing you always do? She always does this. He always does this. But it's work to rewrite that story.
And the work is so worth it.
Yep.
I mean, I feel like I need to say this right now, because, there were times even in my own recovery where I remember thinking like, well, man, if, like you were saying, if the grass is greener on the other side, like, well, if I was just in another relationship, then I wouldn't be, thinking about, well, is he doing this? Is he doing that? I wouldn't have to be, going through like triggers and trauma and having all this stuff. But, I'll never forget Clint and I were walking in a grocery store, and there's something I was mad, or I said something, if you want to recall, like what had happened at the grocery store.
Basically,
this was years ago, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is during recovery.
Yeah.
You had started taking the boys out on like little day trips on their own, which you hadn't really done. And you were taking them to the beach by themselves, and you were carrying all the beach toys up and down these stairs. And we always go to the beach together. And so it was different for me to actually see you almost embodying the idea of what would it look like if I was doing this on my own. And you started to do stuff. And I remember you saying like, yeah, I'm just doing stuff because I don't know. I don't know where we're going to be at. And I just want to know, like, if in case, you weren't there, I'd be able to do it by myself. And then the other thing was like, yeah, I don't know if I would meet somebody else, or, I play it in my head and all this kind of stuff. And I think that just made me want to like argue against that, and give you a reason not to leave. Do you remember what I said exactly? Or do you?
No, say it.
I basically was like, yeah, I mean, you could definitely leave. I mean, for sure. However, I'm getting better and I'm healing and I'm doing the work of recovery. So if it's not you, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be the best version of myself that I've ever been. And somebody else might get to enjoy that if it's not you.
And I'm like, what the heck? That was like the first time that I really realized, like, oh my gosh, like, what if you just did all this work? Like you're even saying, let's just use the gardening example, right? Like, what if, we have a beautiful front yard, beautiful backyard, and I just did all this work and I was digging up all these roots, right? I was going through all this pain, all this trauma. And then all of a sudden I planted all these seeds and just like pieced out. Yeah. And then came back and just saw the fruit of my work, but I don't live there anymore.
Yeah. You can't enjoy it.
I don't even get to enjoy the fruit, I would just be so irritated and frustrated. Like, wait, they get to enjoy all the hard work that I went through and that you went through, and they just get to eat this dessert and enjoy you and have a great time. I'm like, no, I'll never forget that conversation. Wow. It really rocked me because I was like, okay, I want to see you at your best. I deserve that. Yeah.
Not only do you deserve that, but you married me because you knew that was there.
Oh, totally.
And so now you're like, okay. So I think how many times does our therapist walk us off the ledge? Like, okay, is he getting better? Mm-hmm. Is she getting better?
And let's be honest, like 70% of men out there struggle with
evangelical Christians. Yeah.
Struggle with, unwanted sexual behavior. Yeah. So even if
the odds of you meeting somebody else,
they would either not own it and they don't even know it's a struggle yet, in denial. Maybe it is, it isn't, who knows? But regardless, what we're saying is that something is going to happen because we live on planet Earth.
And here's the deal. Even if it wasn't that struggle,
it could be something else.
Like, okay, sure, you met the 30% that don't struggle with pornography, masturbation, if that's really the legit stat. Maybe the other percent were just lying. Who knows? You know what I mean? But if they were being honest, and it's 70-30, well, we all know that all of us struggle. Mm-hmm. The question is, are we willing to talk about our struggles? That's what Restored to More is all about, is helping a couple go, you know what? I do struggle. There are things in my history that make it hard to be a great husband, to make it hard to be a great wife, to show up as a loving father, to show up as a loving mother. Sometimes it's tough for me not to be about achievement or appearance or appraisal. It's hard for me not to be about my work or find my value in money or in things or in stuff. It's hard for me not to just veg out with other things. And so the reality is that all of us have a struggle. And that's why we created the courses that we have, because it's and really our statement is all about crisis to closeness. Mm-hmm. At some point, every single marriage is going to go through crisis. Mm-hmm. The question is, are they going to use that to build closeness, or are they going to let the crisis take them out and hurt their marriage? I'm not saying they're going to get divorced. I'm not saying they're going to like throw in the towel, but I think a lot of couples have crisis go on and they ignore it. And they just hope it goes away. And then crisis builds on other crisis, and all of a sudden you have a marriage that is not a marriage at all. You have simply roommates living under the same house. Mm. The kids know it. The kids don't want to get married. Their marriage is uninspirational. The kids are like, I don't know if I really want to get married. It's my parents' marriage. It's okay. It's not that great, but at least they haven't gotten divorced. But really, how many marriages are out there that actually use crisis to create closeness? And that's what we're all about.
And we let what happened to us knit us together. Yeah. But it was a decision. It was. Right? Like when everything happened with you, all of your guts came out, right? I mean, it was very wide open. But I then had the decision, okay, what is this revealing about me?
I'm so grateful you asked that, though. A lot of women don't. It's like, it's all on me. Mm-hmm. And you did.
I think it comes in time, like in the beginning, I just hated your stinking guts. That's all I could say.
Well,
my
guts stank. They did.
I had bitterness, resentment. I was so mad that I was showing up to a group because of you. There was my whole life got flipped over, and I just pointed the finger. But then once, there started some healing and I started understanding addiction and then understanding betrayal trauma, God really opened up my heart and kind of unzipped me, if you would. And I just saw a lot of different areas that really could use some surgery, major surgery in my own life. And if my husband was willing to become intimate with me and share with me his deepest, darkest struggles and secrets, I wanted to do the same. Yeah. I wanted this to knit us closer together so we could come out stronger with a more incredible marriage. Yep. And that's what I allowed this process to do. I said, whoa, look at that. Like, you're not the only one who has sexual brokenness. Yes, you were the one who pushed the button, and really hurt me. And at the same time, you were the one who also helped me, revealed to me that I had a part to play in our marriage bedroom, and I wasn't being fully intimate because of past things that I had gone through with sexual molestation from my mom's boyfriend when I was 8 years old, and realizing that I wasn't letting you see all of me because there was things that happened to me in my childhood that I didn't even realize, but I was blaming it on addiction, which some of it was addiction. Don't get me wrong.
We're talking, what is it? Present hurt enhances.
Oh yeah. Present pain enhances.
I think I said that wrong.
Oh wait, sorry.
Past pain.
Old wounds enhance present pain.
Well, can you say that again? Because I really chopped that up.
Old wounds enhance present pain.
So it doesn't mean that present pain isn't affected by old wounds.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we blame all of the pain on the present.
Yeah.
And we neglect the old wounds that maybe never healed.
Yes. And that's what I had to do. Saying. There's a lot. Unfortunately, there's a lot. I call myself, I was a T squared, which means I was going through double the trauma at the same time, which was really intense. I was going through current trauma with addiction and betrayal. And then I was also going through a small T trauma, which is trauma that happened in my childhood for many things.
And I'm grateful you let me in. You started telling me about those things and how that affected our sex life, how that affected your intimacy. You know, Charity and I always joke, if you guys ever get a chance to meet us and sit down one-on-one, and if you ever do the courses, you'll learn a lot about us. But a lot of times I relate to the women and you relate to the guys. I'm not talking about betrayal, trauma, and addiction.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about personality-wise. I'm the one that wants to go on a long walk and just talk for a solid hour and a half. Charity's the fixer in the relationship. She wants to fix everything. You know, she's the more choleric than I am. There's little bits there, but the 4 temperaments there. I'm definitely a sanguine all the way. And then some bits of not all the way, actually, probably 70-30 sanguine choleric. Charity's like 90 choleric and something else, but it doesn't really matter because it's 90 choleric. And we talk about that a lot. And so I'm grateful that you let me in on those emotions, because I think a lot of guys and women are like that, where they just like, I just want to move on. I just want to move on. I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to bring up those old wounds. I don't want to go there. And we talk a lot about how it takes more courage to go back there than it does to pretend it isn't affecting you. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're talking about with every couple. That's why every person has past hurt, past pain that's probably affecting them today if they haven't worked through it. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's ever just gone away. Like, you can't just avoid it and then, it just stopped affecting me. No, you probably just affected parts that you're not maybe aware of right now. But I think every couple, as they go back and they figure out what in my childhood or what my early teen years, what happened to me as a kid, why do I do this? I mean, gosh, just that question alone, why do I do this, would reveal so much about a person's behavior. Why do I act this way? Why do I think this way? Why do I assume that about people? Why do I do that when they do this? Those are revealing questions.
So good. I'm grateful.
Yeah, I'm
so grateful
too. And as a guy, it's really hard. I know, I'm just thinking about it now. It's like, it's really hard to go back to our childhood and then talk about that. I don't know why. I mean,
totally.
I mean, they're both hard. It's hard to admit. I mean, it was really hard to admit a relapse happened when it did during the process of recovery.
Totally.
It was really hard 6 months in to say, hey, Charity, I looked at pornography again. I'm sorry. Hey, I masturbated again. I'm sorry. Like, it was really hard to do that. But honestly, I think it was equally as hard to tell you, hey, I'm feeling really off today because this happened and it triggered me being 7 years old and I felt like a little kid again. And right now I feel like I'm 7 and this is going on and I feel unsafe and I feel unwanted and I feel powerless. I mean, that is really, really hard for a man to say. And I think it's kind of still hard for me to say. It's still hard for me to say, hey, Chair, right now I'm off because I feel powerless and I feel small. I feel weak. I feel like I don't have any control and I don't know if I'm safe. And I'm reacting in that. I'm triggered. I'm reacting to everything around me out of that lens and out of that fear that right now I'm not enough.
Why do you think that's so hard to do?
Because we want to be macho man. I want to look like the G.I. Joe action figure with a 6-pack on top of a 6-pack, I want to have bulging biceps that break down walls, and I want to be so strong that nothing phases me. I want to be faster than a speeding bullet and and fly like a jet plane like Superman. I want to be able to be a man of steel. I mean, that's the image that we get from our culture is that men should just have it all together, man. We can fix anything, we can do anything, and nothing phases us. Splinters that go through our whole hand don't even hurt. Like, what? I'm fine. Let me just break this off. I'll get back in the game. We watch so many movies where the guy gets shot 9 times and doesn't die, and these guys just can encounter 20 men and they can take it all out. But I think the hardest thing to face is the mirror. Yeah, I think it's so hard to face the mirror of the kid who was alone or who was scared or who was unprotected or who felt lost or who just felt alone in the world, who was cast out, who was told he wasn't ever enough. All those things. And just to go back there and be like, wow, this is what's going on today. Like, it's really hard to vocalize that we are vulnerable to our past experiences.
Is it because also maybe there's not a safe environment where you feel like you could share that with a guy friend or, even me or?
What do you mean?
Well, just asking, like, it's hard to not only probably admit that for yourself.
It's hard to even know it. It's hard to be like, wait, why am I acting out of this? Like, why am I so annoyed right now? Or why am I pissed off at the smallest things? Why am I impatient? Why do I, all that stuff? Why is nothing good enough? Why am I like pessimistic about everything right now? And it's something like, you got to go back, okay, well, why am I acting that way? And yeah, once we identify it, we have to share it with somebody. It has to be shared. Sometimes our wife isn't a safe place. Well, I think they can be and not in the midst of recovery betrayal sometimes. Betrayal is different. I think a lot of wives are open to learning about their husband. If it's greatly affecting him, they want to be that safe place.
Yeah.
Not if they feel betrayed right now, but for a non-betrayed couple, it's like, hey, what's affecting you? What's going on? We've talked to how many wives? And they're like, I don't know what's wrong with my husband. I don't know if he really shows the pornography stuff, but he's off and we seem really off. We haven't been close for a few years now.
Well, I just see a trend in almost every couple. The girls just are like, I just wish he would talk more, open up more, share his feelings with me more. And, I really believe that what they're not sharing, they're coping with. Right. And so, because if you're not sharing with anybody, well, then you're coping with something, whether that's drugs, addiction, alcohol,
video games, performance.
Oh yeah.
Alcoholism.
And so I guess my question was like, how come they're not sharing? And then also maybe there just isn't this safe place for men, to feel like they can be weak.
I mean, gosh, that's why I love the work of our friends in this space. We're mentored by a guy named Randy Turner, and he's amazing. And Dr. Randall, we had him on the podcast, and he just is all about manly intimacy. And I've yet to go through his course, but I need to be in contact with him about that probably. But it's been so good to hear that there's another man out there that's breeding intimacy, because it does take somebody who is a safe place. I think a lot of us guys don't have that. I think a lot of our buddies are fixers. A lot of our buddies want to fix a problem, and they're not great listeners, and they haven't gone through their own stuff. I mean, that's what it takes, right? Somebody who's safe is somebody who's gone through their own work and is willing to talk about their own vulnerabilities and their own areas where they feel unsafe, where they feel hurt. And so when you don't have anybody who's worked on that, who's gone through that, we have a bunch of men that feel they need to put on a facade, and they can't be real because their realness is undesirable to society. So if you have someone like me, I've done this work, I've done this recovery work. I feel like I'm more real than most men, and all of a sudden I feel unsafe or I'm triggered. I have to find somebody who's going to be able to talk to me about that stuff. And honestly, it's been really hard. It's still hard sometimes to find a guy who is going to be just like, wow, man, that sucks. And dang, I've been there, and just really know how to listen versus know how to fix.
Well, I think that's a reason why you never got the proper tools and resources when you were a young boy.
Yeah.
When you saw porn, because you went to countless of, people, and they just weren't safe people that you felt like you could go to help you, which is so sad.
And I don't think any of them were really opening up about their own stuff in life. And that's the thing, is it doesn't have to be the same issue. It helps if it is. But I don't think any of those men that I went to were really open about their own financial struggles or their own manly struggles. Being a father, being a husband, balancing work, life balance, all that stuff, being a dad, struggling with parenting. I mean, I don't think those men were really open about what they were currently battling as well. So when you have somebody else who says, "Hey, I'm battling this," it's like, dude, just jump in line, bro. We're all battling something, dude. Pull your bootstraps up, you know? And that's kind of what I was told, actually. Metaphors like that. Just don't look at it, man. Get a blocker. Feed the good dog. There's a good dog and a bad dog, and the bad dog, when you feed it, it beats the good dog. So feed the good dog. So it's always like, that's what we know, right? It's a boxing analogy. Like it was like, hey, when two dogs get in the fight, it's a dog fight, man. It's like life's a dog fight. Life's a boxing match. Life's a wall to climb. Life's a mountain to scale. Life's a battlefield. And I'm not saying that it isn't at times, but can we just sit with our wounds and explore those as well, and find out where they come from and find out how they affect us today? Because I think there's actually more healing in that. And that's what we talked with Drew Boa last week, right? It was like, it's more important to discover where those wounds are, to understand our sexuality and our masculinity.
And that's not feminine to do that. Yet we're teaching a culture that is feminine. Don't cry. That's feminine. Like, don't share weaknesses, don't share emotions. That's what only girls do. And so even when I heard that advice that you would then share with me, hey, they said, just stop, just quit, just don't look at it anymore. I believed it. Right. Sure. Because I don't know anything else. If that's what the women are being taught as well and being educated on, hey, all men look at porn, all men struggle. And if they do, and it's a struggle, just tell them to stop, just quit, don't look at it. And we're taught from movies and shows, hey, men are the macho men, they're heroes, a hero is someone who slays dragons and
put you on the back of the horse.
Yes. And you go off and, Sunset. And in reality, that's why we have these expectations and we just do not understand, I think, really proper expectations for what a husband's role is.
Maybe what a person is.
Yeah.
Like maybe just in general, what is a person? A person is made up of experiences their whole life, good and bad, that have formed what they believe about themselves and other people. That's why it's so important. We talk about knowing the gospel and knowing Jesus on these podcasts, and he is the rock of all that we do, man. Restored to more. There's no more without Jesus, in our opinion, right? And it's like everything we talk about from us is a Christian worldview, and there's just we have to help people experience a God that redefines our past.
So good. Wow. Well, before we head out, let's answer some questions. Let's see how many. We may get to one, maybe get to two, but one of them is tips for dating couples trying to create intimacy after betrayal.
So good.
So they're not married yet. They're a dating couple and they're trying to create intimacy after betrayal. Well, first of all, props to you guys. I wish we would have dived into betrayal, recovery, and creating intimacy before we even got married. Gosh, even understanding God's design for sex before we got married.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
I wish we would have talked about some of this stuff in premarital.
Yeah.
Like really dig deep.
Well, what's really cool is based off that question, we actually talked about doing a whole premarital dating podcast, right? So we'll see when that's coming out. I think maybe next time or the one after that. It'd be cool to do a whole podcast just on that. I think I just sat down with a guy
some
recently.
Good questions to ask each other.
Yeah, I just sat down with a guy recently over coffee, and it was awesome because we talked about what does it look like to rebuild intimacy when you're dating. The same question. It was actually amazing, which means, again, that's always like when one person asks a question, there's probably 1,000 people that are thinking it, just haven't asked it yet. So we talked about what that looks like because there's definitely boundaries in dating, right? You don't want to dive into all these levels of intimacy with somebody that you're not engaged to be married with. There's a difference, in my opinion, between dating and courting. Because dating, you're kind of like just seeing what's out there. You're trying to go on a date, take a girl to dinner, and you find out what she's all about and what's her family life like, and all this kind of stuff. When you're courting, you're like, wow, I think I want to get married to you. We're not being prepared for a lifelong marriage. And I think that's when you can build those levels of intimacy. But let's talk about the spiritual intimacy, emotional, intellectual, all those different levels of intimacy, recreational. A lot of those can happen, and we're not aware that we're building a bond. with the person that we're dating. And we're building a bond that we might never build the same exact way with somebody else. And so we might look back and go, man, I had a better bond with this person I dated before than the person I'm married to. And I think we got to be careful of building bonds with people that we're just simply dating that we might be taking away from our future spouse. So I think it's important to approach that carefully. It doesn't mean don't do it. It just means approach it carefully. Approach it with wisdom.
What would you say if they were courting?
I think if they're courting, it's different because you're getting ready. So I think if you're getting, like, I don't know, we get ours for a long time, but let's take one intimacy. Let's take physical intimacy. Would you, right? Okay. So physical intimacy, everyone's going to define those boundaries differently. Everyone's going to say hand holding's okay. Hand holding is absolutely never okay. Your pinky should never touch, right? But everyone's different,
Like our pastor talks about windshield wiper when you hold your hands.
Yeah, that was funny. And your windshield wiper is when you hold hands, you interlock all your fingers, and then you start rubbing the top of the index finger with your thumb, right? You're washing the windshield. But yeah, I think it's important to go, okay, where's that boundary at? Do we hold hands when we're dating? Do we kiss when we're dating? Do we make out when we're dating? Do we lay on top of each other and make out when we're dating? I think there's certain things that are going to go, okay, well, this leads to arousal, sexual arousal. And I think, man, it's important to know where that boundary's at, because all of a sudden a guy gets an erection, a girl gets turned on, and that's where it's really hard to stop, right? Our brain is being taken over by our increased heart rate. And now we are done with logical thinking. Now that's when I always say, oh, you're thinking with your wiener. And it's true, right? You're kind of thinking out of a mode of, wow, I am turned on right now and I have an erection and I want to do more than just kiss. And I think it's going, why don't we never get there? Why don't we not do things to get us to that point? Because when that point is dangerous. That's like, we're on the cliff here. Let's not walk to the cliff. Let's just stay off the mountain. So that's really up for discussion of what actions lead you up to the cliff where it's too close to the edge where you're jumping off, you know?
Yeah. I think this is a great opportunity if you're dating or courting, probably a little bit more courting because you're serious, but when you just use this as an opportunity to really get to know each other.
Absolutely.
Use this as an opportunity to really build intimacy and getting to know each other's family history, really getting to know each other in both of your understandings of, what is sex, when before you get married, like, do you have expectations for sex? When did you first understand and learn about sex? And both of you just where you have the opportunity to both really get to know each other and your history on it, your viewpoint on it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it healthy, unhealthy? So you can both really understand where each other is coming from and if you even like that viewpoint. Because if you don't, then you're going to be, and if you don't do anything about it, well, then you get married. And how do you think anything's going to change if you're using it from a different lens and perspective? You're going to view sex with the only lens and perspective that you know. And so if we don't change it or get educated from a different lens and perspective, then it's going to stay the same. And so my biggest thing is really understand each other, get to know each other's history on it, learn when you both, have you both seen porn? What were both of your, experiences?
Charity always says, if we ever wrote a book for parental, it wouldn't say, have you ever seen porn? It would say, when you saw porn, how did you react? How did you respond? How did it affect you? All those things.
Because the likelihood is that everyone's seen porn. And that really helped Clint and I understand, like, wow, we had both seen porn at different ages, and yet they were used for completely different things.
Yeah.
And it was both really just sad. But it really helped us both understand, like, where we both have come from and really redefine what we wanted sex to look like in our marriage.
Yep. So important. There's so many things we talk about, intimacy when you're dating. The difference between praying with somebody and praying for somebody. If I'm holding your hand, we're praying together in a quiet spot. We're building a whole different kind of intimacy than me praying for you when you're not there. Right. And so it's really going, okay, where's that line? Where's that boundary of being emotionally intimate, right? If we're being intimate emotionally, how much do we want to share with the other person if we're dating and we're not courting? How much do we talk about my emotions? Should I tell you every day how I feel and what's going on in my life? Or should I save that for somebody else? I think there's certain things that you actually want to build intimacy in. And after a while, I think what's so important is what you said, Charity, because when you get to know that person enough, then you go, you know what? I think now we can start courting and getting ready for marriage. One of the wisest things I ever was told to do was make a list of what I wanted in my future spouse, so that when those things were checked off the list, I knew they were somebody I could marry. And my list was started off with like somebody who loved Jesus, not somebody who went to church and participated in Jesus and culture and church, but somebody who was in love with Jesus. That meant they had a devoted relationship to Jesus without me being a part of their life. They were somebody who was going to make me a better person, which meant that their life was going to challenge me because they probably did things differently than I did, and it followed Christ and his example in a better way. I wanted somebody who was also fun loving, right? Who had an attitude of gratefulness, attitude of gratitude with their life. Somebody who could persevere, somebody who didn't get bogged down by things in their life. Somebody who I knew when we faced trials, we could overcome certain things. Somebody who was about being athletic. I love sports. I've played sports my whole life growing up. I wanted somebody who I could do fun things with in that realm. And there was a whole list of those things. And so when I met you and we started kind of getting to know each other, we kind of friend zoned it for like 4 months. And then we started kind of going on dates, getting to know each other. And so it wasn't long after we really even were friends, I started finding out these questions about you. What is your relationship like? What do you do these things? And so once I knew those things, I went check, 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 check. And that led me down to one knee. People go, oh my gosh, you guys were married so fast. Well, yeah, because I had this list that I was looking for. I was going on dates. I was dating women. I was dating girls, and girls did not have even the first few check marks all the time. And so that was like, no. And so even though I was in a long-term relationship, I knew that the person before didn't have all those check marks. So when I met you and I went check, check, check down the line, I was like, dude, yes, will you marry me? And after that, it was off to the races. But you had the main things I was looking for.
So good. Moral of the story, get to know that person.
It's good. Jerry, that was great advice. Absolutely.
So good. Because then what you're doing is you're coming to the marriage bedroom and with no secrets, nothing hidden. You've really gotten to know that person and you accept them and see that, we only knew parts of each other and parts of our story. We didn't know the whole thing. And it's another thing to know everything and then accept it moving forward. And then you know what you're getting yourself into rather than, getting married. And then, we acted after everything, discovery happened. We needed to rebuild everything, right? Yep. And what that process looked like was as if we were dating.
Yep. And I think I always want to like commend couples that are doing pre-engagement therapy. I'm always like, wow, or pre-engagement counseling. I'm like, that's amazing. They're doing counseling right now with some of their deep traumas before. And that's because they believe they want to be engaged. This is a couple who's like, I know I want to marry you, but there is some stuff in my life that's affecting me greatly. And they are doing the best job they know how to work on those things. And I think that's what this listener is asking, is they're saying, hey, listen, we're in this, we're working through this. How do we rebuild intimacy? The answer is slowly, and you do it with caution, you do it with wisdom, and you ask more questions. You get to know that person the best to your ability that you can. And I just want to commend anybody who's doing that. I think it's awesome. We go to college for 4 years to get a degree, to most likely get a job that we're not even going to, that doesn't even line up with our degree, right? 4 years. How many courses, classes, homework, assignments, all these things.
Essays, tests.
And I don't think we prepare even the tiniest bit for a lifelong relationship. We probably won't have that job for more than 5 years. Probably won't even work in that industry for more than 5 or 10 years. But we don't prepare for a marriage. We don't prepare for a relationship. And I think it's so worth having the conversation of how do you prepare for marriage effectively?
And ask tough questions. I know it's hard. I know, it's true. So hard because lust can get in the way, but ask the tough questions. You will be way more grateful that you did. That's for sure.
Yep. 100%.
Well, guys,
wow,
what a great episode.
Minutes. That went fast.
That was awesome. Thanks for joining us today on the Restored to More podcast. We are so excited for what's to come.